Dauntless Stark.
So there are some videos that I came across that I really want to take a look at. And then read, bless me, we will get into the videos you want to get that you want to look at, for sure. So this is going to be like a 1-2 kind of thing. They're not by the same person, but I am very curious on what these are going to be about. So these are going to be voice acting related videos. I obviously want to do a lot of voice acting in the future. I just keep putting too much like shit on my plate, so I never really have any time to, well, it's my dogs, don't worry. But I never really have any time to sit down and do stuff with it at the moment. Obviously, if you are anything related with the channel, you know that it's stuff that I used to do all the time. I have 2 very prominent videos that are pretty decent of stuff that I have auditioned for in the past and stuff, and some auditions are a lot better than others. But we are going to watch these videos. Now, this is going to be a little risky because I do not know anything about these videos. I just like the overall topic of the title. So this might be a dud, or this might not be. We'll find out. So this one by Beautiful Valentine. I presume, judging by the thumbnail, so we're going to be talking about Deadlock, but how to get into voice acting. So we're just going to get into this, and then after this, we're going to get into another video that's also about voice acting, and I figure because these are both the ultimately same topic that we're going to kind of combine the two, and we'll see how it goes.
If you're watching this video, you've probably seen some of my content around, such
Unfortunately, I have not.
as some of my not so recent Deadlock content that I've been uploading. And I usually get asked a couple of questions.
Yo, are you the actual Lash?
Did you like install AI?
Oh, okay. So now we know.
Are you the voice actor? Holy shit.
So
but
he
believe it or
voices
not,
Lash.
I'm
That's cool.
actually a voice actor. Like, I've actually voiced in anime, video games, and a bunch of other stuff online that you might have seen. It was me, Barry. I even go to conventions sometimes.
That's cool.
And the #1 question I get asked online and at conventions is, how do I get into voice acting? I got tired of answering this question, and when a young man approached me and said, why don't you make a video on how to get into voice acting and send people there? I said, my goodness, what an idea. Why didn't I think?
So what I normally do is I normally just browse Casting Call Club, but that's really hit or miss because that's like, that can range from people trying to start like a YouTube series to like a 13-year-old who just wants like a comic dubbed. So it's real hit or miss, but normally that in the past, that is what I used.
Think of that. Truth be told, I've always wanted to make a video like this, but I've never had the confidence when it comes to explaining a process or teaching people things. So I really took my time writing the script for this and asking my friends how things looked. Plus, I'm a pretty slow editor, to be honest, but I've finally finished it, and here it is. My advice for how you can become a voice actor online for as little money as possible.
Let's
Maybe
go
don't
for it.
mention the money bit.
This is the Neumann TLM103, the microphone I personally use for the majority of my voiceover work, and this is an AT2020. Now, these microphones have a few things in common, a few things not so in common, except the AT2020 is about $1,000 cheaper. Now,
Jesus Christ. I use a Blue Yeti. It's about a $200 mic. I need to get like a boomstick for it, which is like the attachment that allows you to bend it and like hover it over your mouth, because right now I just have the stand, which isn't too bad, but you can kind of feel if I do anything on the desk, you can kind of feel it right away. So it does pick up the vibrations, while if I had like the arm extension, it wouldn't. I just haven't gotten around to getting it yet.
on paper, the Neumann is the better microphone. In fact, it's up there with what most professional level studios might expect you to be working with if you're recording remotely. But if you're a beginner voice actor trying to get on the ground floor of a hobby that could one day bring you fame and financial stability on top of your day-to-day job, it's not a bad idea to start small. Like with these XLR mics,
absolutely.
which also require an audio interface to power them. So even if you go with the cheapest options that I put on this list, your final price is going to look more like this.
I do not have one of these boxes though. I just rip a mic. Actually, it looks a lot like this, just with a pretty decent hand holdable base, which is like what I hold up to like my voice and stuff when I try to be a little bit more performative.
No one said voice acting was a cheap hobby. If you're really on a shoestring budget, USB microphones.
It's the same thing with most PC related stuff where the upfront investment can be quite expensive, but once you're there, everything else is relatively cheap to practically free. So I don't think, oh, right here, this is basically what I have. This is not Canadian, obviously, but this is what I have right here. Mine's just I just have a little bit more of a fancier one.
They're always available. They aren't as good as XLR microphones as they are the industry standard, so you might be a little restricted on what you can work on, but they also...
Right, so like what I'm restricted on obviously is like I don't have the arm extension, which I can get, don't get me wrong, it wouldn't be necessarily too hard to set up. I just haven't gotten around to doing it, and I am not the best when it comes to audio balancing. I've had several videos in the past that are just fucked up, but that's mostly that's not because of hardware issues. That is usually because of a software issue that I have fucked up with, or the settings have changed, I think, magically behind my back. But yes, my recommendation would be just get one of these as a starter. They're really solid. Unless you're really animated, you can't really do a lot. Like, I have stuff on my desk that moves sometimes. I have a fan behind me on my desk. Sometimes you can hear that fan. If I move out of the way, you can kind of maybe hear it touch the mic. That's just because it's summer, right? And it's a little toasty. I don't really have, you know, I live in like a really old apartment, so like normal air conditioning just isn't going to be a fucking factor. So like there is going to be some sacrifices you need to work around. In addition, none of my area is soundproof. It's quite the opposite. My setup is in a very large open room. Now the room doesn't echo at all. It's not, we're surrounded by brick wall, so sound is relatively contained. But you know, I have very loud dogs that like to bark, and sometimes, you know, the cat likes to fuck with them, so they bark and stuff, and sometimes they pitter patter behind me. You can hear that. There are quite a few different kinds of noise suppression software you can use. I think Streamlabs, which is what I use currently, recently just upgraded their shit because you can barely hear the fan now, which you could hear it all the time. So I think they kind of have the same kind of noise suppression that like Discord has too. In addition, a lot of editing software has AI-based noise canceling stuff, which for the most part is just what has always been existent. So I know AI is a bit of a hot button topic right now, and normally I'm a big denier too. But when it comes to added stuff like this, it's nothing new. I wouldn't even consider it in the same ballpark, but that's a different conversation. But like, there's definitely going to be lots of options for you starting out.
Don't require an audio interface to power them, so you can just plug them into...
Yeah, I would not recommend fucking with this until you know what you're doing. I don't have this right now because I don't know what I'm doing. This is if you want to invest like maybe like a couple years in the line, get that. Until then, just get one of those 3 mics before you.
Your computer and hey presto, start recording. And between XLR and USB, there's a whole range of different microphones that you can use with different builds that might actually complement your voice better than another microphone. And I'm not saying that to make your decision more complicated.
This is true. Unfortunately, it would be a little too trial by fire to figure it out. You would need like a professional audio technician. You would need someone who knows what they're doing in order to point you in the right direction. Because other than that, it's kind of just a rabbit hole of everyone saying just words at you, and you wouldn't really know how to discern what to take out of it all.
Than it may seem. No matter how good your microphone is, it's not going to sound great if you don't have a treated space for it. Some people record under blankets, some people record in their closet. I personally recorded under a high wooden frame bed for like 2 years with my SL300 microphone. That's a USB microphone, by the way. No matter where you're at skill-wise or what equipment you start off with, there's no shame in it. And this is where we get to software. I'm gonna make this very easy.
And you know what? That's the same thing with streaming, and it's the same thing for YouTube. It's the same thing with online content in general. In fact, it's better off that you start off small, because if you know nothing, jumping right into the deep end is only going to hurt you in the end. Audacity, you can use Audacity. I think Audacity is a nightmare to use personally. I think it gives you all the tools you want, but it is a nightmare if you do not know what you're doing. Start small, use simple editing software. If you don't know what editing software to use, start with DaVinci. It is a little big. It takes up a lot of storage, but it's free. And everything you would relatively want for simple auditioning, singing, all that kind of stuff, you don't really need Audacity or Reaper for, I promise you. Audacity is if you really want to splice stuff well. If not, I would recommend using DaVinci. It's just a little bit easier to use. It's a lot less overwhelming, because Audacity doesn't hold your hand at all. Like, not really.
Get Reaper or Audacity or Tenacity. Now, Audacity is stable and it was the go-to back in the day, but after a ownership change and some worries about privacy and things like that, some people got together and made Tenacity, which is actually based off a version of Audacity.
I did not know that at all. So if you're going to use Audacity, then follow what he says. Until then, I would probably just use DaVinci, if I'm being honest. I'm not the professional here, but I am just someone at the very bottom trying to learn. And trying to learn Audacity is extremely intimidating, so I would recommend against it for now. For baby's first steps, I would not use Audacity.
Both are completely free, but
especially considering if you're going to get into voice acting, you're going to have to do auditions for a lot of random stuff, so you're going to have to submit stuff that you, like passion projects first. And so in order to do that, there's a good chance you're going to need to learn how to do normal video software too. If you're going to upload little bibs and bobs to like a YouTube channel, for example. I think DaVinci also just helps significantly more, because Audacity is exclusively for audio. And you could use Audacity and then you can put the file into DaVinci to use, but most of the stuff that you're going to be doing on a beginner level, kind of like knowledge level, you can do in DaVinci. So it's two birds for one stone. Until you really want to get into tweaking, until you really want to get into mixing, until you really want to get into leveling, I would just not use these right now until you're comfortable enough to learn them. Because just jumping right into it, it's fucking scary.
Tenacity is open source and based off an older version of Audacity. It's currently in a pre-release state and does warn that you may experience some bugs or even lose work potentially. So while Audacity might be the more stable option, I actually recommend checking out Tenacity every now and then and see how their progress goes. Now, Reaper is a little bit different. It's a fully paid-for software, but it does have a free trial version that lasts for up to 60 days, and there is no DRM, so they can't really take it away from you. So technically, it's free software, but you should pay for it. The commercial license goes for $225, but the discounted license is $60. That's a really good price. I'm a big fan of the...
I understand that, but again, I would just use DaVinci. It's completely free. There is a free version, but it's not a free trial. It's just a free version. It just has a lot less than the paid version. But again, if you're just going to be doing audio stuff and simple video editing, you do not need the paid version whatsoever.
On a system, and I hate it when people take advantage of it. So if you do try Reaper and you end up really liking the software, I'd highly suggest buying it. So now, you've got your microphone, you have your software, and maybe your audio interface, and you're currently tucked away in your studio pillow fort. Where do you audition? Casting Call Club is the website. It's super...
Hey, that's what I said. Again, I would not worry about location nearly as much. I would just worry about being in a... The first thing you really need to figure out is you need to be in a location where you are comfortable talking at normal voice to potentially screaming without anything interrupting you. That's what you need to do. Because sometimes you see comics or like fan dubs of stuff where someone's supposed to be screaming, and then they sound like this, and they're screaming, and you can clearly tell that they were doing this at 2 a.m. in the morning, and they really don't want to wake up mom and dad, right? Because that shit adds nothing, and it almost always takes away, and it just makes everything funny. Like, there's a really good, like, a perfect example is there is something, there's Brazilian God of War. Brazilian God of War. And this isn't an official, so there's this. I think this is it.
Ares. This
No, it's not. God, where is it? Here it is.
Vila e o templo de Atenas. Destruam tudo e todos. Vamos saudar nosso senhor Ares. Vamos, homens, acabem com tudo.
Right? So clearly he was trying not to be loud, but it's Kratos. So in retrospect, it looks a lot funnier and stuff like that. You don't want to do that because you're never going to get any impact that you have any desire to create. So just you don't need to make yourself a pillow for it. You don't need a closet, not right away. All you need is to be in a space where you know that you are comfortable enough, if need be, to yell or potentially scream, and nothing really will be an obstacle for that, right?
Organized, and it's a great place to compare and contrast work with other like-minded voice actors. But there's also a whole bunch of opportunities on social media platforms like X, Blue Sky, or even Instagram. And while you're probably not going to find a big anime audition on any of these sites,
This is true. However, I would not hold my breath with these options. They are there all the time. Because of how, at least Twitter, I cannot speak for Instagram, and even less so for Blue Sky. But because of how the algorithm works, at least for me, because I'm not verified and I'm not going to be verified, you do not get a post until like a day or two later. So you are already competing with potentially thousands of people for the role. While Casting Call Club is a little bit more concise, and if you want, you can see the post like the hour of it being posted, if you're looking for it. So those do exist, but as someone who's tried to get in through these methods, it's not ideal at all.
opportunities that are there can vary from indie animations, video games, audio plays, and a whole lot more. There are also
Yes, so again, Casting Call Club is really good for that. Just be wary that the person behind the project isn't always competent and isn't always potentially like mature enough to even handle the project to begin with. There has been several occasions where I've had to just completely cut contact because they turn out to be like a preteen or like sometimes even a child. And it's like, dude, I'm not doing this. Okay, I'm too grown to do this for you. I'm sorry. Not gonna happen. Right?
Discord servers like Voice Acting Club, which I've used in the past fairly often.
I am in a couple of voice acting servers. I was in 3, now I'm in 2. And I haven't really touched them since. They do a lot of anime voice dub stuff. I have been accepted for about 15, and I have not seen a single episode come out. So again, one of the more important things you need to come to realize is, especially if you're starting out, expect a lot of projects to just never see the light of day. I don't think he's going to get into this because I think his experience at this point is very biased because he's a professional. He expects the professionalism. He probably does not have any acknowledgement of like the novice or amateur world, which he's giving advice to people who are entering it through a novice and amateur view sense. So I'm just filling in from what I've experienced. And I can only assume that my experience is more similar to what everyone's experience is going to be, more towards his experience. So expect a lot of things to just never see the light of day. About 30. If I had to just lowball, like unironically, that's not even, I am not considering like the auditions that I have not been accepted for. I'm talking about they liked my audition. They went with me. I've talked to them. They said they'd give me an update. And I haven't heard a single thing from them since. And sometimes they pivot and sometimes they change. It's shitty, but it's their choice ultimately. It's just the unfortunate truth that sometimes it doesn't really matter. Even if the stars align and you hit every fucking goalpost you need to, it still won't work out. So keep that in mind. It's nothing's guaranteed at any stage. Until it is out for the internet to listen to, it is not guaranteed.
All of these examples I've given so far give you the opportunity to work on both paid and non-paid projects. Which brings us to auditioning. Now,
if you're like me, never go towards the paid stuff. It's not worth it. Because if you don't know what you're doing, they're going to sniff it out immediately. Get some experience under your boat. Get some comfortability under your boat. Don't do paid stuff. Just don't even try it. It's not worth it. You're just going to get disappointed. You're just going to get you're going to get too excited, and it's going to fuck with you. Start with free stuff. Treat it like a hobby, not like a job.
auditioning for most projects isn't terribly complicated, but each audition process for each project can be a little bit different. A website like Casting Call Club streamlines the process somewhat, but when you're auditioning for a project through email, it's important to read all of the supplied information, whether or not they want the file that they receive to be in a WAV or MP3, where to send the audition.
And again, DaVinci makes that really easy. You can make it, you can render any file into any file you need it to be. So it's a little bit difficult. It's a little bit more difficult with Audacity.
And even if they want you to state your name at the beginning or end of the audition, we call this slating. The fact is, any good casting call.
So for those who are curious, like a WAV file, it's basically an MP3, but not an MP3. There's no real way to explain it. It's an audio only file that is a very specific format, and I don't really know why people prefer it, because it's really easy to just not use it. As far as I'm concerned, you can use any kind of audio based file, but WAV is the more universal file, which again DaVinci does quite easily.
Will supply you with the necessary information that you need to know in order to successfully submit your audition. If we're talking auditioning tips, if you get the option to do more than one take for an audition, it's important to make meaningful changes in that second take, like with the emotion. Even if it's stated what kind of emotion they want to hear, it's a good idea to show a different perspective of how you are going to play that character, as well as showing off your range of emotion. Or rather than going into a completely different direction, try blending the requested emotion with another emotion. Another tip that I have is that readability in the voice that you are doing and whether or not people can clearly understand you is typically more preferred. So be sure to enunciate.
Yep, I had this problem a lot, and I still kind of do. If I do any kind of voiceovers, like from like a script, sometimes it's pretty hard to enunciate what you're trying to say. When I'm talking normally off the cuff, it's a lot easier to do, because I'm actively thinking about what I'm saying. But when it's already there in front of you, it's really easy to blend all your lines together, and it's really hard to comprehend what anyone's saying, right? It's really easy for it to just be one long sentence, and you have to actively think about when to stop, when to pause, when to breathe. It sounds dumb, but like it's shockingly difficult. Like it's something you actually need to put time into, like mastering a little bit. Just keep that in mind. I made that problems too. I made all that. I made all these like issues as well.
Now, in the event that you are cast in a project, which is awesome, good job, I'm proud of you. You might get invited to a project Discord. In which case, all I have to say is be nice, be a little bit professional, because you're probably going to be grouping up with a bunch of people that.
Yep. The first thing I'd recommend is just do a personal DM to everyone, being like, "Hey, I'm in this project. I voice so and so. Pleasure to working with you." And then they'll say hi, or they'll ignore you, and you just move on. You take it from there.
You don't really know from a bunch
always
of
be
different
willing
places
to
and
extend like a friendly
So
olive
just
branch to everyone.
try to be respectful of everyone, which brings me to my next topic. The voice acting community is incredibly accessible. I've met a whole bunch of people in the voice acting community that are kind and super helpful, but at the same time, accessibility doesn't really equal safety. There is no screening process, and with people seemingly accessing the internet at younger and younger ages, it is always important to remind you that you don't really know who you're talking to behind the screen. Even if you meet them through voice acting, please show some discretion and think about how you conduct yourself and whether or not they are speaking to you in an appropriate manner.
What the fuck?
Right now, that's pretty much everything.
Okay, I was really thrown aback by what the fuck I was on the screen. Absolutely. Obviously, someone of my age, I don't really have to care about that. In fact, it's the opposite. You know, I kind of need to make sure that I'm being professional towards someone else in this case. But absolutely. Treat them as colleagues, like work friends. treat them not as like your best friends or like a personal friend, but like a friend of the family that you don't really know a lot about. Just be kind to them.
I think I've got for you in this video. And if there's any further questions that you have for me, feel free to ask them in the comments, and maybe I'll make a follow-up video covering that. So, until then.
I think this is a pretty decent introduction. I do think that, again, he's viewing all of this through the eyes of someone who has clearly been doing it for some years, and maybe he hasn't had to deal with a lot of the shittier side of things getting into this world. I don't know if he like went to school for voice acting or anything. I wish I did. I didn't know that was an option, frankly, when I was doing all of that. Sounds dumb thinking about it now. Obviously there is, but I wish I had going into adulthood, basically. But if he did, then he would have a lot more prestige and a lot more opportunities than someone such as me. But yeah, always be on the lookout. There is another video I want to take a look at. It is not by this gentleman that voices Lash. It is not by Beautiful Valentine. There's a big stigma about voicing certain characters and how sometimes it's really cringe. Carter, friend of the channel, you might know him if you've watched any video of mine, says that I should do voices for Joker. I should do voices for Joker of the Batman Rogue Gallery variant, and I have always said no. Because it's very cringe. And it's very easy to be very goofy when you voice the Joker, because although he is fun to voice, the stigma behind him is that it's cringe more than anything else. So I'm very curious what this video has to go into about what Heath Ledger imitators get wrong by Zero Wolf. I'm extremely curious what he has to say. There's no laws against Pokemon, Batman, but right. Unless it is absurd, it is usually cringe, unless it's like a comic dub, for example. Like, there's a lot of really just like, videos when it comes to people pretending to be a Joker. There's that horrible video of like that awkward coworker who's like, you want to hear my Joker laugh? And then he gives like the shittiest Joker laugh I think I've heard. But anyway, we're just going to get into it. It's about 16 minutes long. I'm curious.
His turn as the Joker in Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight is one of the most celebrated and chilling villain performances of the new century, and yet, somewhat paradoxically, it is also directly responsible for inspiring some of the worst villain performances of the last 2 decades. The double-edged sword of creating something genuinely iconic is that your iconic creation will inevitably be ripped off by less talented, less creative people and become somewhat of a joke. What's interesting is that Heath Ledger's Joker has become shorthand in the pop cultural sphere for someone who is deliberately edgy and fake deep, and yet the performance itself is still universally celebrated. The actual performance in The Dark Knight is still considered chilling and affecting and iconic, and yet the performance's earnest imitators have become such a widespread target of mockery that this off-brand recreation of this version of the Joker has arguably had an equal or greater cultural impact.
So the reason why Heath Ledger was such a successful Joker was because for the first time in a very long time, they did one of two things. One, they didn't make him funny. Joker is portrayed to be serious the entire time. He doesn't even look funny. He looks like a threat. He acts like a threat, and he talks like a threat. Which isn't really something that has been done a lot, especially around that time. It's been done now, but at that time, it was relatively unexpected and new. There was a lot of unintentional comedy that he has done, but is never, at no point was it ever due to a punchline he said. Was it ever due to like a direct laugh that he said? It has always been through some inadvertent action that he has performed, but at no point was it ever intended to be funny. Secondly, he doesn't talk like a clown. Mark Hamill, well, hello there, bats. Like, he sounds like he's putting on a circus performance, right? He sounds like he's performative. Why, hello! You know, like it doesn't sound like a real person necessarily. Same thing with like Mark Hamill's Joker period. The biker gang Joker from Brave and the Bold. They look and act like they are putting on a show. Heath Ledger, although has very odd mannerisms and how he talks, it's almost, it's a little bit more like methodical about, like, he is thinking about every word he is saying while he is saying it. And he has twitches, makes him uneasy to be around, uneasy to look, unpredictable, because he doesn't really have, when he doesn't have control of himself, how can he ever be predictable, right? It's the fact that he's almost philosophical, right? He's not a fucking farting in bathtubs, knee slapper kind of guy. He's militant. He's daring. He's strategic. He is a threat in his entire... That's what made him so special. And people have tried to imitate him, and people have tried to go completely opposite of him. Like, there's a lot of right answers, and there's a lot of wrong answers. But in my mind, that's what made Heath Ledger so insanely impactful.
Someone says, "I'm the Joker, baby," you don't think about the comic book version of the Joker, or the Batman the Animated Series version of the Joker, or the Jack Nicholson version of the Joker. You think of the Heath Ledger Joker, but not actually the Heath Ledger Joker as played by Heath Ledger in The Dark Knight, but the meme version that is based on his relentless imitators. It's more of a mockery of Joker fans and Joker cosplayers and people who posted unironic, edgy memes starring the Joker on Facebook back in the 2010s than it is a mockery of Heath Ledger's Joker himself. And yet one did directly inspire the other. But outside of inspiring a lot of edgy memes and a lot of ironic memes based on those edgy memes, Heath Ledger's Joker also inspired, to varying degrees, other actual villain performances in film and television. There were, of course, the subsequent versions of the Joker performed by Jared Leto and Joaquin Phoenix, which pulled a lot of inspiration from Heath's specific interpretation of the character. There were other adaptations of comic book supervillains that contained a lot of Joker DNA, like Anarchy or both Tricksters on the CW superhero shows, but it also heavily influenced live-action interpretations of non-comic book supervillains, like Sherlock's version of Moriarty. Sometimes the inspiration is very subtle, and sometimes the villain is just doing a Heath Ledger impression, but his influence is undeniable. Heath Ledger's interpretation of the Joker ushered in an era of crazy villains, whose performances focused less on grandiose gestures and more on subtle, creepy mannerisms. Ledger's performance was carried by a weird walk with a weird gait and odd, jerky motions, and was punctuated by darting eyes and tongue flicks and weird little facial tics.
Yeah, twitches.
And while his exact choices wouldn't necessarily carry over into other performances, these broad elements would become incredibly popular in other actors' interpretations of their villain roles. Jared Leto and Joaquin Phoenix's subsequent turns as the Joker are markedly different interpretations, but their heavy focus on weird mannerisms and facial tics shows that they are still following the framework of Heath Ledger's performance. So the question is, if all of these villain performances are directly or indirectly inspired by what is undeniably one of the greatest villain performances of the last 2.5 decades, why are most of them bad?
Because, in my opinion, they lack the threat aspect that Heath brought to the table. They also are very over-performative, probably because they're trying too hard. Not enough or too hard. It's one of the two. It's not about the fucking amount of face paint makeup that they have. It's because they are not, I'll be pretty blunt here, they do not have the skill to do it effortlessly, so they have to overcorrect it, and then they are implementing it in a meme format to begin with, so it's really hard to do so. I'm curious. I'm hoping he gives us some like physical examples, because I don't really want to go fishing for any, but it is pretty rough, a lot of these fan dubs, which is why I'm always hesitant too, because it's one of the most well-known and prestigious voice roles that you could get, and there's a lot of really shitty ones, and then there's some really crazy ones. For example, my favorite Joker performance is John DiMaggio's Joker from Under the Red Hood. I think that is it's better than Mark Hamill in my opinion. I think it is one of the best phenomenonic performances when it comes to the Joker, period. It matches all the boxes that I like. It does not sound like he's putting on a show. The laugh is super realistic. It has like a perfect like smoker's wheeze, which I can just imagine Smoker having like a cigarette every now and then. Like he sounds like a human being. He doesn't sound like he's a fucking comic book character, I guess, for the most part. There's that human aspect to him, which, like it or not, I think Joker needs to have that human aspect of him because he is a human. Okay? He doesn't need to have the morality of a human, he just needs to have the characteristics of a human, which a lot of people tend to forget.
Why is Heath Ledger's Joker still so effective and scary almost 20 years later, while his imitators are, for lack of a better word, cringe? Well, the blunt and simple answer is that Heath Ledger was just a much better actor than most of those other guys, but there's more to it than that. I think what makes something read to us as cringe is the perception of inauthenticity. Now, sometimes genuine emotional earnestness can be cringe, but a lot of the time, what makes us recoil in skin-crawling disgust is the perception that something is inauthentic. That someone is trying to deliberately elicit an emotional reaction from us artificially. And so, what can make a performance cringe instead of scary is a lack of proper motivation. For example, something that I've almost always found to be cringy is try not to laugh contests. You know, the moment I feel like someone is trying to get a laugh out of me, nothing they do is funny. So I think in like the third...
Okay, that's... Do you just like... Are you like not affected by stand-up at all? Because that's a little sad. I think it's because they are... I think they're going too crazy. Like they're being over performative. Like when I go, hello! It is over performative, but I'm also referring to when the Joker was over performative. So would I do that if I were to voice the Joker? No, but I'm just also quoting just like Batman from Arkham Knight. You know, I sprung a trap and you sprung it, or I set a trap and you sprung it gloriously. Like shit like that, right?
Season of Game.
And in addition, you gotta get the laugh down. You know, there's that. Something like that. I think it's a mediocre laugh. I could probably get better at it, but like you do need to have a good laugh that's not just like, again, over performative bullshit. Like, would I ever laugh like that legitimately in real life? Fuck no. But it's what I think a clown would sound like. And so do I think it's amazing? No, I think it's passable. That's about it. A good Joker laugh is a laugh that you can imagine an actual human being laughing, sounding like. Not just, oh, that's the Joker, because it's performative.
Changer, they did this like Survivor parody where all the comedians were sort of competing on a version of Survivor. And one of the games they played is a try not to laugh contest, and for me, it was the least entertaining part of the episode. Comedy, especially improv comedy, is funny because it's spontaneous, it's unexpected. But watching comedians deliberately try to make each other laugh had this unnatural desperation to it. Brennan Lee Mulligan is someone that I find to be effortlessly funny most of the time, and yet I didn't find anything he did during that game even remotely funny because I knew he was trying to make me laugh. Nothing anybody did during that game was funny to me because it felt too deliberate, except for Lou saying please let me win at the end. That was actually hilarious. And it was hilarious because it was genuinely unexpected and it read as earnest. What makes Heath Ledger's Joker effective, aside from Heath Ledger being a good actor, working with a good script, and being in a good movie, is that everything he does is motivated. One thing that is really interesting about Heath Ledger's Joker is that in every scene he's in, he is doing something. He is always on the move. He is rushing from point A to point B. And all of his little tics and mannerisms and his funny walk and his weird gestures are motivated by that movement from A to B. You don't get the sense that he's just doing the gestures and the tics for the sake of doing the gestures.
I guess that would go under like
he always has a purpose in whatever scene he's in beyond just be scary. Heath Ledger's off-putting, creepy mannerisms don't feel like an affectation that he's performing to scare you. They feel like his genuine mannerisms. They're an afterthought.
Yes.
He's not in the scene to lick his lips and gesticulate wildly. He's in the scene to play Russian roulette with Harvey Dent or take Rachel Dawes hostage or blow up a hospital or, you know, do something else. The mannerisms are the way he's doing that. Everything he's doing is motivated. He always has something to do in the scene that he's in. Christopher Nolan gets a lot of deserved flack and a lot of deserved praise, but one thing that he is really good at as a director is showing up late and getting out early. Christopher Nolan movies move along at a very brisk pace. His scenes almost never overstay their welcome, and his version of the Joker never overstays his welcome. Heath Ledger's Joker isn't in that many scenes of The Dark Knight because he's only in a scene if he has something to do, and once he's done the thing he's there to do, he leaves. The biggest problem with most of the performances inspired by Heath Ledger's Joker is that the actors don't have anything to do most of the time. They're just vamping. So vamping is an old vaudeville theater term. It refers to when something would go wrong during a show and the actors or musicians would have to improvise to fill up time and keep the audience entertained while people backstage fixed whatever the problem was. It's etymologically unrelated to vampires. It actually refers to the vamp, which is a piece of a shoe that is used to cover up a seam. Anyway, part of the reason that Jared Leto's performance as the Joker in Suicide Squad is cringe, aside from the smiley hand tattoo and the lack of eyebrows and it being Jared Leto, is that
okay. For me, it comes down to the writing. I don't hate the hand smile. I think that's pretty good. For me, for Jared Leto, I don't care about the behind the scenes shit. I don't care. And if you remove the fact that he's in the movie for like 5 minutes, okay? People acted like it was the end of the fucking world. That movie was bad for a lot of reasons, okay? Not Jared Leto. I don't mind the hand smile. I think that's cool. It's the fucking bling that he has, and it's the fuckboy haircut, and it's the writing. Like, I'm not gonna kill you, I'm just gonna hurt you really, really bad, is a fucking moronic line. That is some fucking, like, 12-year-old, I want to be edgy, Sasuke is my lord and savior type fucking edge. Are you kidding me? Really? That's the best you can come up with? I don't mind his Joker. I just hate a lot of the aspects about him. Why is his hair so neat? Why does he have a lot of deliberately placed tattoos? They should be fucking all over the place. Why does he have fucking bling? Why does he have bling? Why does the Joker give a fuck about status? Right? Why does he have jewelry? That doesn't make sense. I know he's often depicted as having like decent clothes, but it's not bling. It's not pimp daddy Joker. Gangster Joker, sure, I can get that. That goes back to like the Nicholson era and stuff. But like it's a different side of the same coin, right? It just doesn't work that well. He looks best when he dresses neatly, but when he dresses like a fuckboy, it doesn't match the Joker. The hand smile, though, I like. I thought that was cool. It's like a lot of everything else.
That in most of his scenes, he doesn't have anything to do. He's doing the creepy mannerisms, he's doing the voice, he's doing the facial tics, he's doing the gesticulate.
I will say the voice is also not bad, but I think the voice is forgivable because what the fuck else are you're gonna do? You're gonna have to try and do something different. It just didn't stick the landing, but I don't think that I would register that as one of the many sins with Jared Leto's Joker.
but he's not doing it during anything. He's kind of just getting in front of the camera and going, ah, ooh, look, I'm scary. And the thing is, fear and intimidation work the same way as comedy. If you get the sense that someone is trying to scare you, it stops being scary. I think Gen Z's penchant for calling everything cringe is a bit overblown, but there is a genuine level of recognizing inauthenticity there. Another bit of Gen Z slang, which let's face it is probably just stolen from black people, is aura farming, which refers to when a character or real person is deliberately doing something just to look cool. I think it's interesting that a lot of current online culture is based around the recognition that a lot of media is trying to deliberately elicit a certain reaction from us, and how inauthentic and deserving of mockery it feels when they don't pull it off well. Now, Jared Leto is Jared Leto, but Joaquin Phoenix is actually a really good actor. I loved him in You Were Never Really Here, but his Joker has a lot of the same problems. His performance itself isn't bad. He's not doing bad acting. He's not necessarily making bad choices.
Joker 1 or Joker 2? Because I think Joker 1's really good. Not to mention, like, okay, if you consider Arthur Fleck as Joker, he's pure human. He is the most relatable human being in that whole movie, which is the point. But I don't think anyone would say Joker 1 is bad. Joker 2 is a whole other fucking story. Don't get me started. But Joker 1, it's like, yeah, he's human. He's not the devil that we all know him as. So I'm very curious what he has to go into saying what's bad here.
Biggest issue with his Joker is that, first of all, he's got so much screen time to fill, and second of all, he doesn't really have anything to do. A lot of his scenes, specifically his scenes once he's transformed into the Joker and is no longer Arthur Fleck, feel like the director stuck him in front of the camera and told him to be creepy. And again, Joaquin Phoenix is a good actor. He's turning in as good of a performance as he can, but the issue is, for most of the movie, he really is just vamping. Very little of
I would say he's struggling in 90% of the movie, but you could say that he's doing nothing, but what would he be doing, though? It's a story about a man struggling and struggling and struggling and struggling. Like, it's about a man who, like, no matter what, he can't get a fucking win in life until he puts on the mask, right? So I think you and I would just quantify it differently. But where you say vamping, I would say it's just him struggling.
His performance feels motivated. It doesn't feel like his character has a clear goal in most of the scenes he's in. His motivation is just be scary. And again, he is doing his best, but without a clear motivation, the deliberateness of his creepiness becomes obvious and the performance becomes cringe.
The only time where I would agree with you there is where he kills his dickhead coworker and he traumatizes the other coworker that he lets live because he was nice to him. That's the only scene that I think is applicable here. Everything outside of that, I don't think I agree.
Is what separates bold and earnest from embarrassing and cringy. Speaking of Gen Z, one of the things they love to mock is what they perceive as millennial humor, and one of the hallmarks of millennial humor is essentially doing a Jim Carrey impression. You know, punctuating your jokes or your performance with big, exaggerated faces.
I'm just gonna say that's more Andy Kaufman, but yes, I can get so. Because Jim Carrey, I don't hate Jim Carrey at all, but his comedy is more like shouting at you. Like just look at like Robotnik. 90% of his jokes are him just shouting the punchline to emphasize the humor of it. Andy Kaufman is more of what you're thinking of, but he's a lot more obscure. So I would. Considering also Jim Carrey based a lot of his early performances off of Andy Kaufman, I would put money down on that. He also played him in a biopic, so who knows?
I think this one is kind of a favorite. this hurts my jaw. Like, the edge of my jaw is banging into my neck bone. It's weird. I mean, there's obviously other comedians that are famous for their exaggerated facial expressions, but Jim Carrey feels like the obvious cultural touchstone for the millennial generation. So I feel pretty confident calling this specific style of millennial humor Jim Carrey impressions. However, just like Heath Ledger still being scary, Jim Carrey is still funny. I mean, some of his jokes haven't aged too well, but looking back at his old movies, you wouldn't call his performance cringe. And yet, his millennial imitators, depending on your taste, aren't funny. And once again, the reason is motivation. Jim Carrey's facial expressions are funny in the same way that Heath Ledger's facial tics and mannerisms are creepy because they're motivated. Carrey is not just making a goofy face while lip-syncing a TikTok audio for the sake of making a goofy face, in the same way that Heath Ledger is not just doing creepy mannerisms for the sake of doing creepy mannerisms. Jim Carrey is trying to make you laugh in the same way that Heath Ledger is trying to creep you out, but the character isn't trying to make you laugh. He's trying to get from point A to point B, and he's just being goofy while he's doing it, in the same way that Heath Ledger's Joker is just trying to get from point A to point B and being creepy while he's doing it.
Okay, I agree, but okay, I'll be that guy. Let's not pretend that there's no point in the fucking Batman movie where Heath Ledger is not trying to intimidate someone. Do you know how I got these scars? Like, where do you think that whole fucking scene comes from? Obviously, he is also trying to, like, intimidate the other people in the movie. But you're saying he's not doing it passively? I would agree there, but that's not really what you said, rather than what you meant. But sure.
There's a specific genre of fake behind-the-scenes facts where people will claim that an iconic aspect of a famous movie was accidental or improvised. Obviously, there are a few things in certain movies that are genuinely
Is he going to talk about when he throws the money up and it smacks the fucking guy in the head? Because, again, that's an accidental comedic time. That scene is dead-ass fucking serious. But that scene's pretty funny, because people getting hit in the head is a little funny. But the movie doesn't, like, make a punchline out of it. The movie treats it very seriously and intenseful. It's just looking back, yeah, it's a pretty funny scene. I wonder if he's going to be talking about that, because that was apparently a one-take Andy, and it wasn't supposed to go down like that, but it was such a perfect shot that they went with it. That's the only thing I can think of here.
Improvised, but most of them aren't. And I would actually argue that the widespread popularity and prevalence of this kind of fake fun fact is the result of anti-intellectualism. Oh, those nerd screenwriters and Tisch graduate actors couldn't have come up with something this authentic deliberately. It has to be real. But I do think it's a testament to the authenticity of Heath Ledger's performance as the Joker that so many aspects of his performance have fake fun facts about them being improvised or accidental. No, that bit in the hospital scene where there's a delay before the big explosion and the Joker fiddles with the detonator before the bombs go off was not the result of an accident. Both the delay and the bit with the detonator was scripted, and it's actually pretty insulting to the pyrotechnics team to imply that they didn't do their jobs properly when the safety of everyone on set relies on them doing their jobs properly.
I never believed that.
But the reason that fake fun fact is believable, and the reason it felt like that moment was improvised, is because Heath Ledger was, you know, acting. Because he's a good actor. He made it seem like he didn't expect the explosions to stop because he was acting. That's how a performance works. The popularity of Judd Apatow movies, which are at least partially improvised, has kind of lionized the idea of actors doing improvisation. It's kind of a similar thing to actors saying they did their own stunts or directors saying that there wasn't any CGI in their movie. You know, you're kind of claiming that something is authentic when it isn't. And I think that lionization has led to a lot of really bad improvisation from actors who aren't very good at it. In a lot of recent movies, mostly comedies, but other genres as well, there are a lot of performances that feel like the director just pointed the camera at the actor and said, all right, do something funny, do something scary, you know, do something that make us care. But ironically, part of the reason that Heath Ledger's Joker feels so authentic is that it is scripted. Heath Ledger had a very tight script to hang his performance off of. He was never just left out to dry. He wasn't just a dog chasing cars. He was never just making it up as he went along. He always had something to do. Chris Nolan didn't just point a camera at him and say, okay, be scary. The interesting thing about the Joker and villains like him is that there isn't really a lot of substance to him. He doesn't really have a backstory, he doesn't have much in the way of internality. The movie treats him like a, chaotic force of nature. And so it's very important
It's also
for
not
the
important to
authenticity and
learn about who he
believability of the
is.
performance
It's not
and
the whole- it's
movie
not the-
that
just-
he never stops moving.
it would
The
add
moment you get
nothing
a
to the
scene where he has nothing to do, the moment you have too much time to think about him and analyze him, the whole thing kind of falls apart. So he has to keep moving. He has to keep swimming. He's almost always moving, like literally. Go back and watch the movie. He's never sitting still. The Joker's imitators stand still for too long. They're plopped in front of the camera and told,
Except when he's in the interrogation room. Even then, it's not for too long because he starts like clapping and then he picks a fight with Batman. But I'm being pedantic for no reason. I'm sorry, but I get what you mean. Go on.
to vamp. And there's time for the mystique to fall apart. You, the audience, start going, oh, this is just some guy making weird faces. That's not scary. There's a lot of scenes where Bruce Wayne is standing stoically or introspecting or staring at his Batman mask or thinking, but the Joker is always moving, and Wally Pfister's camera is also almost always moving when it's on him. We're not given enough time for it to become cringe. He doesn't overstay his welcome long enough for us to stop taking him seriously. Creepiness comes from a lack of understanding. Things are scary when they pose a direct threat, right? A big guy running at you with an axe is scary, but something is creepy when we can't figure it out. And Chris Nolan and John Nolan and Wally Pfister and Heath Ledger maintain the Joker's creepiness by never giving us enough time to stop and figure him out. There's never a moment where it feels like he's trying to get a reaction out of us. He's always just trying to get from A to B, and we're too busy worrying about what he's gonna do next to question the authenticity of his mannerisms. I guess the takeaway from all this is to give your villains stuff to do. In fact, just give your characters stuff to do. Character is revealed by the things people do and the way that they do them, and very little is revealed to us by the way that someone stands in an empty room and does nothing. Anyway, if you like this video, you can like it and subscribe and send it to your friends and hit the bell icon and leave a comment and send me a pint of your blood. And you can also subscribe to my Patreon, where for $1 you can see the scripted, more intensive video essays early, and for $5 you can vote on new video essay topics and get shouted out at the end of the video, and you can also see some other stuff occasionally. Anyway, becoming a supporter helps support all of this, so
yeah, so I'm sorry to cut you off there, Zero Wolf. I understand what you're trying to say. I still believe that it's all about the performance and how you need to not treat him like the comic book character that we all love, right? Because if he's in a cartoon, you can act like a cartoon character. If you're in a comic book, you can act as ridiculous as a comic book character. But once you translate that to real life, unless everyone is acting like a fucking buffoon, it doesn't have the same je ne sais quoi as you think it's going to have. But anyway, let me know in the comments below if you would like to do me... Let me know in the comments below if you would like for me to do some more Joker stuff. I don't think I really want to, but if you guys want me to, I know Carter really does. I'm still on the fence about it because I don't know if I can bring that authenticity that I preach about into the character. But yeah, I definitely do want to go back to doing more voice acting entertainment, either on stream or off stream. I definitely want to do more of it in the future. It's definitely difficult. I got a lot of shit to do. I'm a one-man team behind here. I am considering getting like an editor and stuff for a video every now and then. It's not easy. So it would just be like another revenue of like when I don't have anything to react to. Which, by the way, this was a blind reaction to a video that I just stumbled upon in YouTube. This is very fun. It's very risky because sometimes those videos are a dud and they're not super sustainable. But if you have a video that you really, really want me to react to, I will heavily consider it. If you put it in the Discord below, there is a section for videos that you can just dump a link to. The video will pop up. I will search through it, see if I really want to do it, and I'll react to it. I'll do it. I really will. Or in addition to that, if you want to come over to the stream, there's a react to this in the channel points, where no matter what I'm doing, no matter what I'm playing, I will have to stop, or at least later in the stream, I will react to it. Red does it all the time. He did it this stream again. Thank you, Red. You're a G. But this is all the time I have for this episode, so thank you everybody for watching. Hope you had a wonderful time. Hope you have a wonderful time. Till next time we meet, I hope you all have a fucking day. Peace.